All set? Yeah, it's fine. No worries. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Cho. I am a sales engineer with Nexenta. I cover the basically East Coast for whatever opportunities are needed for our customers. So thanks for the time. I understand that I am the last hurdle before you have to get out of here. So I'll try to do my best to make this as efficient as possible. So Nexenta is a software-defined storage company. We are a software-only company that provides storage solutions for enterprise customers. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about what software-defined storage means. I feel like there's multiple definitions of this in the industry, but just generally having that foundation to speak from, and then from there we'll kind of talk about what we're doing in the VMware world / storage world and how we can help your companies. Before I get started real quick, there's a giveaway. If you guys are interested, $100 Amazon. Just need a business card. If you don't have a business card, I can give you one of mine. Just put your work email and your name. And from that, I'll just pick one at the end of this session today. All right. And also in the back, there's little cards for $10 Starbucks gift cards. Those are, just take a card, sign up, try our free trial, and then you get $10. All right. So I've been doing this Nexenta thing for about 5 years, and I've been to a lot of trade shows. For those of you that have gone as customers who may not know what it's like to actually host a booth, it sucks. Standing on your feet all day, it is the worst thing ever. It's nice to walk around and be given swag, but when you're sitting there, it's horrible. And it's even worse when you have to try to give like a 2-minute elevator pitch to a customer who has never heard of you. So I can't tell you the number of times I talk about software-defined storage, what it is, and for the customer to look at me and be like, so it's like vSAN? No, it's not like vSAN. It's like this, try it again. And so it's like Nutanix. No, it's not like that either. So there's a lot of definitions of software-defined storage. So I figured we can kind of go through some of the myths and general ideas of what it is, and hopefully all be on the same page regarding it. So first of all, everyone is software-defined. Secondly, it's difficult to deploy software-defined. Thirdly, it's large companies only can do it because you need specialized people to do it. It's too expensive. You're still locked in vendor-wise, and it's too slow for what I need to do. Right? These are a lot of the arguments that we've seen. Some of them actually might conflict with others, but generally these are the things that we've seen. I can tell you just from the onset that most of these are just a misunderstanding of what software-defined storage can do and how it can look like for your enterprise. So a version of this slide I think exists with every single company. What is the current state of the data center? How does it currently look? You have all these forces coming through, blah, blah, blah. The reason I use this slide, and I'm sure all of you have seen this at least one time or another, is to understand that while all the core components of IT are the same, basically servers, storage, power, and cooling, the things that are pushing upon them are different. I spoke with a man, Scott, I think he left, but he works for a company that does specialized logging analysis. So he has like a database per customer. So every database is different. I literally spoke with him just now. So every database is customized for what his customer needs to do. That is very much a very unique challenge to have for his enterprise, because how many of us need to create a specialized implementation for each individual organization that we work with? So all of this adds up to just a larger and growing data environment where all these requirements on your left are being impressed upon us, but unfortunately there is no additional budget or money. So we're all being asked to do more with less. So the reason that I start with that context is because if we look at the core components of the data center and what we have, like I said, nothing has changed over the last 10, 15 years. Okay? We have storage on the bottom, we have compute in the middle, and we have applications on top. Nothing's different. But if you look at the way that certain shifts in the in our market have happened, you can see that applications are software. Right? Applications are all software. Compute has now become even more software than before, especially with VMware. Storage, however, is still somewhat limited to just being hardware appliances. A lot of companies have unique ways to manage this appliance nature of storage, but storage is still something that you have to buy as like a microwave. When I buy a microwave, it's not like I can choose the GUI of a Samsung and put it onto a Kenwood. It doesn't work like that. I gotta buy my Samsung. I'm screwed. Whereas in the IT world, I can take a server and make it into a database server. I can make it into a web server. I can make it into a storage server if I really wanted to. It's really up to me how I want to define it. Storage is one of those worlds, though, that has been very slow to make that shift. However, they are all built on commodity components. Intel chips, Seagate drives, or Toshiba, or HGST, or Samsung, or whatever, right? It's all the same. So what we actually get with storage is all of this. So on your left is the basic protocols, the capabilities, the services. On the right is your support and what that looks like for you, but also some constraints and limitations, right? This is just inherent to systems like microwaves. You have fixed configurations. You have incompatible product offerings sometimes. Hardware adoption is slower because there's the validation process, there's a QA process if things are married together very tightly, et cetera. So that's where the main disruptors in storage have been these three types of organizations. Amazon is the first one. Not just Amazon, but companies like Amazon, Google, et cetera. Basically making storage a service, right? Hit a button, and boom, you get storage. Hit a button, bam, you get a database. You don't have to worry about firmware upgrades or anything like that. It's just you get what you need. If you want Active Directory, hit another button. Another one is VMware, and companies like VMware. I would add Nutanix and other ones in there, but specifically around flattening down the entire architecture. Rather than having multiple layers, you make it basically one big fat layer that has all the storage and the compute in one. That has given customers a myriad of different options now for what they're trying to do and to simplify their lives. I talked with a customer at a university recently, and they're really potentially moving toward a hyper-converged solution because they don't want to upgrade firmwares anymore. They don't want to do this crap, this BS that they're tired of because it takes up time. They just need to worry about deployment, and they don't have that ability anymore. The other one is software-defined storage, which is companies like Nexenta. Historically, we've provided for install our operating system on server-grade hardware and make storage out of that, right? That's what we've done legacy-wise. But we're now moving also into areas where you can leverage us in a virtual machine on top of hyperconverged, on top of all-flash storage, on top of these other things for file services, or put us into Amazon's and Google's of the cloud. So you can have a topology that makes sense, that's native, that speaks together cohesively, right? So these are some of the things that are happening now in storage that gives a lot more flexibility, freedom, and quite frankly, less headaches. So with software-defined storage, you get most of what you want on the left, which is, if these features are all, there are no unique features anymore in storage, right? I like to tell the story of, if you look 5 to 8 years ago, there was a startup for every new feature. You want thin provisioning? Hey, there's something called compellent and 3PAR. Hey, if you want dedupe, oh, something called data domain came out. If you want tiering, oh, look at that, there's another one. I find it shocking that these companies eventually adopted all their other features, and they never sued each other for it. It was like a very awkward truce that occurred, right? Nowadays, every storage company has a majority of the same features. The way they're implemented, the details obviously are nuanced and different, but overall, the checkboxes are there. Because we're software, we can also define these same features within our operating system. And also add things like API-enabled programmability and simplified management. Support is still there, but a lot of the constraints are now being lifted because of software-defined storage. You have the ability to deploy your storage in one location, replicate it to a cloud, and not have to worry about things not communicating anymore, right? The classic DR problem of storage 1, storage 2 on both sides is kind of getting resolved because of software-defined storage. All right, so going through some of these myths, I'll just quickly blast through these so you guys can get an idea of why some of these may not necessarily be applicable to software-defined. Not everyone is software-defined. Not every solution is software-defined storage. Software-defined storage provides the greatest range of use cases on standard x86 hardware, right? That's, if we're using the VMware definition of software-defined should be, that's what it should be, right? So some companies that are software-defined aren't necessarily doing that. Difficult to deploy. It's only difficult to deploy if your management layer is not well developed. And for a company like Nexenta, where we are going toward enterprise, or we're going after enterprise customers, we have to provide a simple administration. We have to provide GUIs. We have to do these things because that's the expectation. So it actually isn't that complex if we're speaking the right language to the customers that we're going after. Additionally, because we are speaking that language, it's not just something for large customers. That enterprisey nature of complexity or lack thereof works really well on the small side too, right? Small and medium business. That ends up trickling down quite well because small and medium businesses don't have the staff for any sort of complexity. They don't have the ability to have specialization. Now the beauty of having a separation of hardware and software, not buying a microwave in and of itself, is that you now have levers that you can pull as a customer for pricing. Everyone knows what a server costs, right? If I were to spec out a server, I bet you, and maybe I shouldn't bet this, I probably would lose. But when I was a customer, I could see a spec and be like, oh, that's like $8,000. You know, I just look at it, that's like $8,000, ballpark. You know, I could figure that out pretty quick. You know what those things cost, so there is no surprise when there's a hardware piece component to that. The software piece is negotiated separately, potentially. Or if you go all virtual, there is no hardware. It's just a software purchase that customers can own. That, to me, is the full power of pricing and having a low TCO for solutions. Vendor lock-in is only applicable if the solution that you have can't move across different platforms, whether it be hardware or virtual, or across different infrastructures or clouds. You know, the fact that a solution like Nexenta can be very transportable, like that, I don't understand how that could possibly be labeled as vendor lock-in. And this one is finally, flexible for our business in terms of performance. Our solutions are very customizable, specifically because we have the ability to understand what the hardware we're using. It's all standardized, and be able to spec it for our customers' needs. All right, so some of the best examples that we've seen of software-defined storage in our customer environments are flash workloads, VM workloads, backup and archive, and containerized workloads. These are the four that are the easiest in terms of for customers to understand and see, and for us to get an initial deployment on. Okay, I'll specifically touch on the flash one because I think that one is probably the most interesting. You know, we have our friends here at Pure. So our friends at Pure have a fantastic product. I want to make sure that I validate that before I say it. I don't want to get into any sort of argument. Our main emphasis here is around the cost process, right? We allow our customers to purchase flash at server-grade prices and use our software layer on top of that. There is large opportunities for scale for savings there. So that is one way that some of our customers have used us because it's interesting, right? It's an interesting solution to look at because that is a very unique way to acquire flash in the data center. All right, so Nexenta has been around since about 2008. We just got acquired, actually last week, by DDN. Yeah, your friends are probably in here. So we just got acquired by DDN last week. So now we are a subsidiary, wholly independent organization within them. We have about 2 exabytes of storage deployed worldwide, about 3,000 customers. So we have quite a large footprint within the industry. You good? All right, cool. All right, so our product portfolio is comprised of 3 main pieces. I'm going to specifically concentrate on the middle one, which is the virtual deployment. All right, so in terms of speeds and feeds, our product, like I said, is very full-featured. Our strength, though, is on the file side. The file systems are hard to do. SMB and NFS are annoyingly difficult, mainly because there's a lot of corner cases that have to get done right. I like to compare it to automated driving, right? Like we're moving toward automated driving slowly, but in order for automated driving to be really good, you need to cover every single corner case If a car sees a big monster truck, it needs to understand, oh, okay, I need to know how to handle that. That may not be something it sees often, but it needs to be able to handle it when it does see it. File systems are similar, specifically around the Mac world. Macs suck, because they provide a level of complexity that, quite frankly, most people aren't thinking of, because you think Windows and SMB, not Mac and SMB. Over the years, we've had to figure that out, and thankfully, we have a pretty robust solution now because of that pain. But all modern feature sets we have, compression inline, software-based RAID protection, high-performance replication, multi-tenant file services, et cetera. So in terms of deployment scenarios, there's 3. One being a bare metal install, one being a cloud-based install, and then, like I said in the middle, one being on top of VMware. Now, this could really be one of two potential deployment models. One being hyperconverged. Think vSAN, think Nutanix, think whatever hyperconverged platform, and think things like Pure, all-flash SSD storage platforms, all connected to VMware environments. The play here is really around the fact that customers want additional file capabilities on top of what they currently have in terms of investment. So, in other words to put it, if you have a vSAN, there is no file capability that it provides out. Our solution can get mounted through virtual machines, get put into a vSAN environment, and then serve out both NFS and SMB file services. That will then provide for snapshotting, cloning, VSS integration with Microsoft, replication out to a DR location, or even to Amazon. This is what it would look like. So sometimes I get the objection of like, hey, why would I use you guys for SMB? Why can't I throw this into a Windows VM? Well, yeah, you could. The problem is the Windows VM has a Windows kernel. It has a bunch of patching that has to go through regularly. And the fact that sometimes it's unstable, and there's no high availability. If that VM were to go blue screen to death, it's not like VMware, unless you JRig it, will understand that and want to restart it. It doesn't have that visibility into the virtual machine on an individual basis. Our solution in a virtual world is fully highly available. We have 2 VMs that are in an HA cluster, monitoring each other through heartbeats. With VMware, we can set up affinity rules to make sure that they're on separate hosts. And then if one of the VMs were for some reason to have an issue, the other VM will recognize that and take over responsibility for the pool and continue serving out NFS and SMB services. This is a fully featured file service, something that is necessary in the enterprise. So today, we support both NFS and SMB, high availability clustering, snapshotting, cloning, compression inline, schedule and continuous replication, and finally, integration within vCenter to provide for a single pane of glass, which I hate that term, but whatever, it makes sense, people know. Single pane of glass administration usability. So everything is done within a single, one place. We're seeing a very large influx of this. One of my largest customers is actually on Pure, and he wanted to use Pure storage that they had bought several $1 million worth and continue leveraging that to be able to decommission their NetApps and use Nexenta on top of that. When we started discussing that with them, they wanted to ensure that we fulfilled the entire product suite that NetApp provided, the snapshotting, the replication, all that kind of stuff. And once we validated that, then they turned off the NetApps. That's a huge win for our customers because you get to consolidate things down. Before it's, oh yeah, I just bought this new Pure and I have this NetApp. I want to get rid of it even though it's 10 years old, but I can't because it still has my file services. Well, why don't we just put everything onto VMware and then now you're just left down to this. That's a very powerful story in terms of consolidation, in terms of being able to make things more efficient. Any questions on this? All right. So I just want to give you guys a quick rundown of what our architecture looks like. So architecture is built up from the hardware layer up through the protocols and then how we handle data out laterally. So what I mean by that is we start with the base platform, whether it's x86 server, virtual machine, cloud. We build the operating system and our file system on top of that. Then we start enabling out our file systems, whether it be block or file. In the future, this year, we'll be releasing S3 capabilities to write S3 to the Nexenta systems. On the left, you have lateral out for remote replication or HA clustering. And then on the other side, you have our management framework. This is how you communicate via the GUI, via the CLI. Our third-party plugins communicate via the same management framework. And we also expose it out via REST for customers that want to engage with it and script against it for automation. Okay? So this fulfills the entire gamut in terms of how all communication happens out of the system and how things come in and out of it. Our licensing is perpetual. So in our world today of subscription and usage-based and all this kind of stuff, our licensing is a perpetual model where you buy it and you own it. It's based on capacity. But once you purchase it and let's say you choose not to renew support at some point in the future, the software will not lock you out. It is yours to use. You will not get updates in the future, and we will not answer your phone calls, but it'll work. And right now, with so much of this, even with iPhones and whatnot, devices not necessarily being ours anymore, this is kind of a nice breath of fresh air, knowing that the software that your organizations buy is going to be yours in perpetuity. The license includes the first year of support. So once you buy it, you get immediately 1 year support included in that. And then all the main features that you would expect are included in the base license. Support for any type of deployment model, NFS, SMB, iSCSI protocols, snapshot and cloning, data reduction. We have something called high performance replication, which allows for near synchronous replication times. If you have an RPO of 1 minute, 10 seconds, if you have the bandwidth for that, we can support that. We're essentially journaling out writes as we see them on the primary system and send it off to the other side. We're not waiting for acknowledgements, because that would be synchronous. But we are sending it as quickly as we get it, and then acknowledging back to the application. Okay. Base license also includes the VMware plugins and the right to use the GUI with the system, which is called Nexenta Fusion. All right. So Fusion is, I believe, a very modern, wizard-driven GUI for our customers. This is something that our team has worked on a lot in the last several years. We used to have a really sucky GUI, I'll be honest. It really sucked. It was ugly. It was green, not like a vomit green for some reason. But we learned a lot of our lessons from that and made it so that it was much more wizard-driven, and it's very elegant. But also in the back, you can see an image of Swagger, which is our fully documented or self-documenting API for REST, which allows you to engage with it, run some test scripts against it, and then copy-paste code into like a Python script if you want to, so that you can have high confidence that what you are doing is going to actually work. So our solutions are delivered as a reference architecture. In the virtual world, this is not as important. In the physical world, we have reference architectures for all the main hardware vendors, Dell, Lenovo, Supermicro, HP, Cisco, et cetera. But this really simplifies the selling motion. It simplifies the configuration process. We're already giving guidance in terms of CPUs and I/O cards and whatnot. So having all that provided for you, I think, has been a huge benefit for our customer base. Okay, that's all I had. Told you I'd try to make it efficient and quick. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll be over there. And again, just to reiterate, if you guys are interested in the $100 Amazon gift card giveaway, just drop off your business card, or if you don't have one, I have a pen and my cards. I'll just put your email and whatnot on there, and we'll pull someone out at the end. Any questions?